There's an underlying stereotype, and this is not intended as a criticism or offensive, that only the guys work on the bikes and the gals do the bookkeeping. And you know that's not true. There are many female motorcycle riders. In fact, if you have a Yellow Pages phone book, you'll see one of the law firms advertises where the guy is sitting on the motorcycle and whoever the woman is standing, but she's in leathers, so she apparently at least rides as a passenger and perhaps she drives. And you see females driving motorcycles. I see them quite often. It's maybe still male dominated. So your customers are probably mostly.
Our customer base is actually really diverse.
Ah.
We have a lot of female riders in our shop.
Very good.
But it's just the people who want to work there, who are interested, who want to work on parts, want to work on bikes, want to sell them, that actually want to have all the knowledge. We don't get a lot of females who really want to work in a motorcycle shop.
Okay.
Very few applicants.
And the sales force, is it diverse or all male?
Sales force is all male.
All male, even though you have female customers.
Yeah.
Interesting, the homogeneity of the organization facing a diverse population. Mm-hmm. You agree with that observation? Now, the reason that I'm reacting to it is that one of the arguments in Chapter 2 about diversity is using it to the organization's advantage. What is an advantage that can come to an organization from a diverse workforce? Just think about it for a moment. And actually the answer is fairly obvious, but yes?
Well, you get more experience with different life experience.
And keep going. You're on the right track.
You attract a larger customer base.
You can attract and serve a broader customer base, but even more importantly, anybody want to take a stab at it? If you have these differences, what can possibly happen?
You're able to relate to a different clientele.
You can do that, and I'm gonna keep pulling. There's more to it. You're not wrong. You're right, but there's more to it.
Different cultural based ideas.
There, you're picking up on it. And I'll complete it for all of us. Done right, managing diversity correctly, you can capitalize on the differences to create more ideas. So if, for example, you have females buying motorcycles but have an all-male sales force, they could lose out on the uniquely female view about motorcycling. And I suspect it's there. There's no question about male-female differences in other areas of life, so that we would have to extend it to those systems. Now look at the dimensions of diversity. Darren, with the overhead camera, please. There we go. Excellent. This is on page 29. And if we do this just on the left-hand side, and I just noticed, I designed this figure myself, and apparently when I designed it, I put the fairly obvious dimensions of diversity on the left and the less obvious dimensions on the right. So there we have age, gender, ethnic background, race, which is somewhat different, education, and religion. And those are not too hard to see. In the company that this woman described in the second row from the top, the age range was 20 to 50, is what I recall you saying. And do you have any conflict between the younger people and the older people in your company?
In mine?
Yeah. Do you think, and you're not going to offend me, I've already told you I'm 68 years old, and there's nobody in this room that's that old. But do you think there is a difference between a person who's in their 50s and 60s and maybe 70s in the way that individual sees the world compared to 20-year-olds?
Oh, definitely. But I mean, I work for a dance studio, so we all kind of have that common aim, common background. So the older members in the studio are more respected because they've been there longer. They've kind of lived it longer, not longer.
Well, and they have more experience.
Right.
So in dance especially, your skill develops over time with practice. There was an observation, I don't know names, this is terrible. Right here, yes, you had reacted.
I just think, in everything, like even if you have conversations, like if I today have conversations with my parents about anything in the world, our generation is so much more open to most things than like even my parents' generation.
Okay, now be very real careful with that. I'm not concerned about your parents. My son-in-law is 30 years old, and he is shocked at some of the things I say. Not because I'm 38 years older than he is. He's really kind of straight and, a conservative fellow. And I can go over the top in a moment. And it's hilarious when my daughter and Jason and it'd be interesting what happens with the grandson Blaze as he gets old enough. He's already displaying characteristics that imply he's going to be really cool. With a name like Blaise, it comes from Blaise Pascal, the French philosopher, so people can't even say it correctly. But the conversation turns to many different things. Now, on the right-hand side of the figure, we have some other dimensions. Union status, physical ability, sexual orientation, family status, working part-time, and retired but working part-time. And I'm going to fall into that category. And some of these are controversial. When you read the Cracker Barrel article in the readings, and I don't know if it's assigned for today. No. I can't remember. It has to do with the company's policy, which has been overturned, where they had developed a policy about gays and lesbians, and they fired every one of them that they could identify. Now, if you know anything about discrimination laws, that is a federal offense, basically. You can't discriminate based on sexual orientation. All came from the values of the founder, who is a retired Marine officer and comes from the South, and he decided that he didn't want any of those folks running around in his company. They have since been sued and have lost and have had to change the policy. Now, let's apply this to our class. If you look around for a moment, please, just turn around and take a look at the folks who are sitting to the extent that you can see anybody. And you can see this site and any of the other sites like Los Alamos and Santa Fe and so on. If they speak, we can see them. But we include all of you as part of our diversity analysis. So I took the exercise for the icebreaker, and I carefully statistically analyzed it. That is, I wrote stuff down and added it up. So, do you perceive us as a diverse class or homogeneous? I can't interpret no answer. No, seriously.
Your definition of diverse.
Differences in any of the dimensions that are obvious. Some stuff we're not going to know about, like a person's religion and all that. But age, gender, presumptions about education.
Diverse.
Think it's diverse? Well, the average age of those who reported, that was 28 people submitted the exercise out of 41 enrolled. 53 enrolled, counting the remote sites. The average age is 25.1, to the extent that it can be a 0.1. There can be. The range, and I didn't include myself in this, the range is from 20 to 47 in age. If I throw out, say, 35 and higher, then the range becomes 20 to 33. That's fairly narrow, it would seem. So on age, that isn't even a generational difference between 20 and 33. Do you perceive